So we're back to the Manifesto of the Communist Party. Right, I was thinking about something when I was going to sleep yesterday about the Communist Manifesto. Oh man, but now I don't remember it. I guess we just keep reading and see what pops up. Right. For the rest, nothing is more ridiculous than the virtuous indignation of the bourgeois at the community of women which they pretend is to be openly and officially established by the communists. The communists have no need to introduce community of women. It has existed almost from time immemorial. Oh, right. Back at these times, women were not really allowed to have a community. Oh wow, yeah, no voting, no community, no nothing, eh? And they have a point, right? Maybe there hasn't existed a women community since time immemorial. That kind of makes sense. Maybe. But it is a cultural thing, right? It is a norm. And I don't mind an officially established, right? That's an attack against communists. Oh, you organize women into communities. That's unacceptable. Oh, wow. Wow. It's funny that this is an attack against communism. Today it is, anyway. Alright. Our bourgeois, not content with having wives and daughters of their proletarians at their disposal, not to speak of common prostitutes, take the greatest pleasure in seducing each other's wives? Wait. This. My fan is making a noise that is super frustrating. There we go, finally got rid of it. Wait. Oh, they want harems, is that what we're talking about? Bourgeois marriage is in reality a system of wives in common, and thus, at the most, what the communists might possibly be reproached with is that they desire to introduce in substitution for hypocritically concealed and openly legalized community of women. Legalized community of women? Yeah. Wait. Is that... Wow. For the rest, it is self-evident that abolition of the present system of production must bring with it the abolition of the community of women springing from that system, i.e. of prostitution of public and private. Yeah, I was thinking about, right, what is it that they mean when they say abolish private property? And I think that it's not really two different systems, like I was talking about that, it would different amount of money, right? But it becomes impossible, right? Because if we have personal ownership, and private ownership is when someone owns more than someone else, right? That is kind of the deal, right? No, it's not even when someone has more than someone. Well, it's partly that, but it's also when... No, it's not when someone has more than someone else. It's when you have as much for it to become social power. You can translate it into social power. That's what I was thinking about yesterday, and my understanding of what the text is saying, right? When your capital can be transferred to social capital, right? When you can use the stuff you own and translate, make it into social capital, right? That you can, by the nature of what you own, you kind of can influence politics more than other people, for example, right? So like women not being able to be in communities when men are able to be in communities, that is an unfair advantage. Someone having a bigger house to hold house parties, that's a social, right? That's social capital. Right? Someone owning a megaphone and going out to the city and just shouting their politics, right? That is social capital, right? You've used your money to buy that thing to take up extra social space. So the communists think then that no one should be able to have this bigger house, right? If not everybody can hold this private party, then no one should be allowed to, because of the social power that private party comes with. And it sounds like a good idea, but it also sounds imaginary, right? Maybe one day in the future that is a possibility, but I don't see that. What about, like, they're talking about within a country, what about a city compared to a village? All the people in the village usually have, right, bigger homes. While the bigger the city, the smaller the home, the more expensive per square meter. Like, all right, but they reject the free market. What if everybody wants to live in the city? Or what if everybody wants a big... it becomes a problem with equality and equivalence. Should everyone have the same size home? Should everyone have access to a home in the city and out in the bush? Like have access to 2 homes? Since some people want a larger in the village and some people want a smaller in the city. Where do we draw the line, right? And living in a city is... you have access to more people, which is more social power, right? Because you have access to more people to communicate with. Location, location, location. I don't know. The communists are further reproached with desiring to abolish countries and nationality. The working men have no country. We cannot take from them what they have not got. Since the proletariat must first of all acquire political supremacy, must rise to be the leading class of the nation, must constitute itself the nation. It is so far itself national, though not in the bourgeois sense of the word. National differences and antagonism between peoples are daily more and more vanishing owing to the development of the bourgeois, to freedom of commerce, to the world market, to uniformity in the mode of production and in the conditions of life corresponding thereto. Isn't this a great thing? The supremacy of the proletariat will cause them to vanish still faster. Alright, if you say so. United action, the leading civilized countries at least, is one of the first conditions for the emancipation of the proletariat. I mean, I would say, right? If every vote is counted, then we have the supremacy of the proletariat, right? If every person's vote is equally counted, like, I'm not the biggest fan of our current democratic system. I would want to see a lot of improvements to it. But it's this battle that they're talking about, the struggle that they've been talking about. It didn't exist back then, but now it does, right? The proletariat has won. As long as every vote is... everybody has a say into... well... some would argue that no, since there's this Douglas Adams quote, I remember... screw the Douglas Adams quote, right? They would say if you only have two terrible choices, then what supremacy do you really have? But I think that's the two different choices. That's just... alright, and they would say, like, the current day TV, for example, the media only presents two choices, and the proletariat don't have the access, like, all that money leads to social power, and the social power comes from the money, right? It's always... so representative... in a representative democracy, like the one we have in my country now, for example, it is only possible for the bourgeoisie to actually inform and make up the policies. That would be the argument. So they would probably say that the proletariat is not supreme yet. In proportion as the exploitation of one individual by another will also be put to an end, the exploitation of one nation by another will also be put to an end. In proportion as the antagonisms between classes within the nation vanishes, the hostility of one nation to another will come to an end. That's just not... this feels like... yeah, right, they're very... what's that? Tunnel vision, right? It kind of feels like the sunshine of your ideas, right? Kind of imagining that, right, when there are no more classes, there will be no more antagonism between people, and that's just imaginary thinking. Yeah, definitely. Of course, we're antagonistic and combative. That's part of what we are, right? And it kind of... there is kind of this hidden assumption in the text that, right, just as soon as we've gotten rid of the bourgeois...
I'm a leaf on the wind.
watch me soar. Right, when we get rid of the bourgeois, there is this imagination that stuff will just work out. We will be organized and everybody should have access to food and shelter and drink and this and that. Just through magic so far. Yeah, so far, all those stuff, they have not explained how that will work, and right, even if they explain a proper system, like they that they have in mind, that system still is imaginary, right? Because organizing people in this scale is fucking difficult. Right? The Soviets did not do a good job, right? Chinese have been managing better, but the Chinese is still very capitalist, right? There is still a lot of bourgeoisie. It's not a communist country by any stretch of the imagination. Right? They have McDonald's in China. Right? Yeah. Yes. And then, right? But either way, there will be areas, there will... How would you organize so no area is richer than another area? That just doesn't make sense. Some stuff we consider more valuable, right? Alright, I can have my house where I have it, or I can have a beachfront property, right? Location, location, location. I can have a mine of gold, a gold mine, literally and figuratively. Like, my village can be on a gold mine. My nation can be on a gold mine. Just magical, right? Again, right? How is that gonna work? To reduce the antagonism to jealousy. I want what you have. Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, I don't see it. I mean, I can imagine like far into the future, maybe, right? We have perfect logistical structures where it doesn't matter where on the planet something is created. Like, I can create a strawberry here in Sweden, and I can send it to someone in New Zealand, like, within minutes, hours, without destroying the environment and whatnot, right? I can imagine that happening in the future, but that would, to get to that point, that was something I was thinking about, right? How do we create this, right? How do we create technological advancement within pure communism where no one is allowed to have more than anyone else? Right? How do we get a 3D printer into every home, right? We have to start with creating one, right? And then we have to create another one, and then another one, and then another one, right? We cannot create 9 billion 3D printers immediately. That's just... That would take magic, right? It would just take magic, right? The only way to create, like, what they're talking about then, if we want a 3D printer in every home, and I do, and it would take, right? Because the means of production should be personal, not private. There should not be an organization that has control over it. So how do we deal with production? Yeah, we create machines that produce machines, right? 3D printers of different ways, right? Need to be a 3D printer in every home that can 3D print a car, because, right, you have to be able to create a car in your own home, pretty much. I mean, I'm taking it a bit extreme. There could be like a 3D printer for cars in a neighborhood, like in a street, right? I don't know how many people can share one of these things, like 100 people. But they're also, right, not only do you have to have that, everybody has to have the skill to operate this machinery. And it's like, we need a 3D printer and the skill to operate it. We need cars and the skill to operate those. And we need megaphones, how to create them and how to operate them, right? All this stuff needs to be accessible to everyone, right? And that's the thing, right? You have to do how technology works, right, is you have to do your prototype and then you do iterative changes and make them better and better and better over time. But you have to start with the first one. That is just how it works. And if you have to start with the first one and then the second one, right, there is an organization factor. Who gets access first? Because that is gonna happen, right? There's gonna be, like the billionaires doing tourism in space now, right? Someone has to get on the spaceship first, and we have to do the spaceships to be able to improve on the spaceships. We cannot have a personal spaceship. That will never ever be possible, alright? Building spaceship, like we will never go from no one having access to spaceships to everyone having access to spaceships. That is not possible. It's just not. It is a worthwhile goal, right? Having everybody having access to the value of a spaceship. That is a goal, yeah, a political goal. I'm all for that goal. It won't happen in my lifetime. It won't happen in hundreds of years, right? If it ever happens. If it ever happens, it'll take hundreds and hundreds of years to reach that point. Right, the charges against communism made from a religious, a philosophical, and generally from an ideological standpoint are not deserving of serious examination. Oh, wow. 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 Right. The chart, like, what I'm seeing here is the charges against communism are not deserving of serious examination, right? Because this religious, philosophical, general, ideological standpoint, that's all charges against communism, right? It's all opinion, right? Right? This is politics and ethics we're talking about here, so this is philosophy, right? Sociology, religion, they just say, we just reject all criticism. That was the dumbest shit. That was the dumbest shit, yeah. They seriously wrote this and left it in. Yeah, that's one of the dumbest shit I've ever seen. And this is a famous text, right? It's a super famous text. It's 150 years. Well, that goes against my entire worldview, right? If something is not right, if you cannot bring charges against something, then that idea is not, like, if I'm not allowed to criticize something, that something is dumb. That's my worldview, yeah. If I'm not allowed to criticize something, that thing is dumb. If it cannot stand up to criticism, then it's... Right? What worth does communism have if I'm not allowed to criticize it? They do not take me serious, right? Then they can just make up whatever shit they want in their head, like, all hostility between nations will come to an end, which I see as that's just someone they made up on a shiny idea in their head. They believe in magic, right? That's the way I look at it. And I criticize it from my own ideological standpoint, right? I criticize it because it seems like magic, and they just straight out reject my criticisms, which puts them in a position where they can imagine whatever the fuck they want, and any criticism is pointless. So any criticism, right? If we flip that coin, right? Any criticism they do against the bourgeoisie, they come from an ideological standpoint. Therefore, they are useless, right? If we take this logic to its end, right? Any criticism in this text is not deserving of serious examination because it comes from an ideological standpoint. It is not deserving of serious. How has this, right? How did this not go through like an... Did they not have an editor? Did no one read this? Wow. Does it require deep intuition to comprehend that a man's ideas, views, and conceptions, in one word, man's consciousness, changes with every change in the conditions of his material existence, in his social relations, and his social life? No. What else does the history of ideas prove than that intellectual production changes its character in proportion as material production is changed? One could flip that all around. Yeah. I could flip that all around. I can say that the history of ideas has created the material production. Right? They feed each other. The ruling ideas of each age have ever been the ideas of its ruling class. Sure. Maybe... I don't know about today. I don't even know if it's ever been in the past, right? The French Revolution, was that based on ideas from the ruling class? I mean, they would say the bourgeois are the scientists, right? Coming up with new ideas, the philosophers coming up with new ideas, right? I would argue that communism is an idea of the ruling class, right? The people writing this text are bourgeois, right? They had the social capital to create these, which makes them bourgeois. Like, this is not written by the proletariat. Just like I'm not part of the proletariat, right? No one listening to this can ever be part of the proletariat because we have access to computers, right? We're all bourgeois. And all the ideas, right? Even these, like everything written in this text, from its own definition, is always derived from the bourgeois. And it's kind of dumb, right? It's not... Right? Where an idea comes from, I don't think is super relevant. The idea should be able to stand on its own. And how do you do that? Through criticism. Oh man, I'm gonna be pissed about this for a while, right? The way to evaluate an idea is to criticize it. How well does it stand up to criticism? That's right. That's the history of ideas, right? The ideas that gets left behind are the idea. It's like similar to evolution, right? The ideas that does not stand up to scrutiny, they get left behind. It's not black and white like that, right? Some ideas stick around because of top-down pushing down. I can agree with you that. Like the two-party system, the left and right political views, right? There's a lot of stuff that comes one-way communication, right? Alright, when people speak of the ideas that revolutionize society, they do but express the fact that within the old society the elements of a new one has been created, and that the dissolution of the old ideas keeps even pace with the dissolution of the old conditions of existence. Yeah. New knowledge is built on old knowledge, right? We improve upon ideas, right? Right? All the new ideas are dependent on, other ideas that has already been done, right? Right, when the ancient world was in its last throes, the ancient religions were overcome by Christianity. When Christian ideas succumbed in the 18th century to rationalist ideas, oh wow, I love this. Feudal society fought its death battle with then revolutionary bourgeoisie. The ideas of religious liberty and freedom of conscience merely gave expression to the sway of the free competition within the domain of knowledge. Undoubtedly, it will be said religious, moral, philosophical, and juridical ideas have been modified in the course of historical development. Yeah, but religion, morality, philosophy, political science, and law constantly survived this change. Yeah, because they have worked, right? Religion, like they've said, right? Religion is kinda dying out. Slowly, but surely, right? Religious ideas. Slowly but surely, they are dying out. That doesn't mean we leave morality behind, or philosophy, or political science. Laws? We don't leave laws behind. Maybe one day in the future there will be like a magical idea where there are no laws needed in a society. Like, I mean, in the past there were societies without laws, I guess. Right. I guess like herd of sheep doesn't have any laws, right? The herd of wolves either. The pack of wolves don't have laws either, right? Because they cannot write them down, right? But since we started writing stuff down, we have kept doing it, right? Because of its usefulness. And I mean, this is I don't even want to call this science. Well, this is rhetorics, right? What we're reading philosophy, we're reading political rhetorics. Right. Yeah, what you would have to do to get rid of politics, right? You would have to get rid of society as a whole, right? Get rid of countries, you would have to get rid of villages, right? You would have to go back to humanity living in such small packs where everybody knows everybody and they don't have to write down any laws. And I don't see that. Yeah, I don't see that happening. I don't want to see that. That's feudalism, right? That's what we end up doing, because there will be packs of humans, and the packs of humans will fight against other packs of humans. That is just how it works. Right, there are, besides eternal truths, such as freedom, justice, etc., that are common to all states of society. Are there eternal truths? That's bullshit. Right? Alright, I'll just make this philosophical statement and just say this is the truth, and everybody who disagrees with me are not allowed to. Because I don't need to take criticism. There are no eternal truths. That's from a philosophical... This is a philosophical statement, and it's a bullshit one. But communism abolishes eternal truths. It abolishes all religion and all morality, instead of constituting them on a new basis. It therefore acts in contradiction to all past historical experience. Oh man. Yeah, So far, a lot of stuff that I've read in this whole text has been, yeah, right. Some of it has been kind of dumb, but that's with the benefit of hindsight, right? This was written so long ago in a different society, so a lot of stuff you could get past because it's written. Yeah, it's been written in its own context, right? And I'm looking from my current context, which is like an unfair comparison that many, like a lot of the criticisms that I've has probably been, really not worth even doing the criticism because of modern society looking different, but that's just how I do things. But this part, right? This whole, from this statement on, right? We're talking about philosophical ideas here. They haven't evolved that much, right? Yeah. Yeah, there are... So these, like... the history of ideas, right? This is dumb even back then, right? This is dumb even 150 years ago. This is dumb even... I don't know, 400 years ago, probably. Maybe? Oh, actually, I don't remember the years, but it must have been dumb even back then, yeah. Yeah, and I can see why there has been a lot of similarity between communism and anarchism, right? Because it's the abolishment, right? That's what anarchism picked up. The abolishment of religion and morality and... Right, it just removes all morality. Right? And that's... So there are no laws. Is that the communism they're talking about, right? No laws? Good luck with that. Yeah, good luck with that. What does this accusation reduce itself to? The history of all past society has consisted in the development of class antagonisms that has assumed different forms at different epochs. Right, this is a problem when you put out a premise at the start of the text, but you have no philosophical defense of the premise, right? The premise that of all past society has consisted of the development of class antagonisms, right? I reject this. Part of me gets so pissed right now that I want to like just leave the text behind, but I'm not going to, not today anyway. I'll continue reading it tomorrow, definitely. Since I reject this premise, so many of the things I reject, right? And this is just an assumption on their part. They've just said, because I said this, this is the way it is. Yeah. Tunnel vision like crazy. It's like I've done the same, right? I'm not interested in reading the Quran or more of the Bible or whatnot because I reject the basic premise. And I do the same with this text. Yeah, I reject the basic premise. It's... Alright. But whatever form they may have taken, one fact is common to all past ages. Vis-a-vis the exploitation of one part of society by the other. Yeah, and that, right? Talked about that yesterday. That will continue as long as human society exists. No wonder then that social consciousness of past ages, despite all the multiplicity and variety it displays, moves within certain common forms or general ideas, which cannot completely vanish except with the total disappearance of class antagonisms. Alright. Well, I get... This is a vague expression again, right? Where does exploitation end and where does cooperation begin? Right? someone else who reject this would see, well, all of this stuff, sure, exploitation happened, but there was also a lot of cooperation, right? It takes cooperation, right? The bourgeoisie does not create society without the help of the proletariat. It doesn't happen, right? If the proletariat, like they kind of imagine the proletariat, right? If the proletariat actually was in an antagonistic relationship with the bourgeoisie would have failed, right? That would not have been the social structure if it was actually in that type of combat, right? I don't know. The communist revolution is the most radical rupture with traditional property relations. No wonder that its development involved the most radical rupture with traditional ideas. But let us have done with the bourgeois' objection to communism. Yeah, let's cherry pick all the easy objections to make. And then reject all the actual objections, right? Actual possible, right? Yeah. Alright. Actually, I think this is a good idea because I am tired with all this going against the bourgeois, right? Like I've said, I'm not really impressed. I'm not really super impressed in wanting to tear stuff down. I'm interested in building stuff up. So let's see where we go. Alright, we have seen above that the first step in the revolution by the working class is to raise the proletariat to the position of ruling class with the battle of democracy. Nice, yeah. Democracy, right? Everybody should be voting with democracy. Yeah, increase democracy. And that, if that is where we end up, just make democracy better and better and better, I'm all for that, yeah. Let's stop have representation. Let's make every individual part of democracy, right? Force everyone to vote on every single fucking question, yeah. Every person in the nation should vote on every decision being made. I think that is actually a very good idea, because something that I think that maybe would happen would be more and more decentralization, because right, you organize, right? You don't want to organize all these, well, maybe not, maybe centralization would be the thing, I don't know. I'm probably mistaken on that. I was just thinking that it's... You want fewer and fewer centralized questions, right? Because the people, if everybody has to vote on everything, then the more votes you have, the more annoying that stuff is, right? So you don't want to have national, like... But that's just my opinion. Yeah, so I don't know if that's actually what would happen. Alright, the proletariat will use its political supremacy to wrest by degree all capital from the bourgeois, to centralize all instruments of production in the hands of the state. Wait. That is, the proletariat organized as the ruling class, and to increase the total productive forces as rapidly as possible. Wait, they're not talking about decentralization, they're talking about centralization. But how do you do that without organizers? You just replace the bourgeois with the state. That's all you do then. And the bourgeois are the capitalists, they are self-driven, right? While the state is driven... by what? They are representatives of the proletariat, not the proletariat itself. Right? Wow. Wow, alright. And that they are just saying that, oh, alright, We will just we will continue doing mass production. We will just do it all from within the state, which is kind of what happens already, right? The bourgeois, they follow the rules of the state. Well, hopefully anyway. Otherwise they get penalized. Right. Of course, in the beginning, this cannot be affected except by means of despotic inroads and on the rights of property, and on the conditions of bourgeois production, by means of measure, therefore, will appear economically insufficient and untenable, but which, in the course of the movement, outstrip themselves, necessitate further inroads upon the old social order, and are unavoidable as a means of entirely revolutionizing the mode of production. Yeah, right. Here we have ideologist that is assuming that they are the best people to design the modes of production. Not an engineer. No. A social criticizer. Which is interesting because with their logic, social criticism is not allowed. By their own logic. Oh man. That really grind my gears. Oh, so dumb. Alright. Yeah, right? Alright. Let's have no scientists, no engineers, and just revolutionize the mode of production. How? How do we do that? Revolutionize the mode of production? By magic, definitely. These measures will, of course, be different in different countries. Right. Oh, I'm curious about the 12 and 13 things here, so I'm going to scroll down. Wait, was it down here? Did I miss it? Here we go, 12 and 13. The words necessitate further inroads upon the old social order were added in the English edition, 1888. The preface of 1872, see page 7, further emphasized this point, noting that no special stress is laid on the revolutionary measures proposed. At the end of section 3, alright. Right, I didn't really understand this bit at all, right? At the beginning, this cannot be affected by the means of despotic inroads. Yeah. The means justify the ends. Yeah, this is... We cannot create this society without dictatorship. Yeah, we need dictatorship. Yeah, that's what we need. We fight for democracy through dictatorship. Yes. Yes, I love this, yeah. I might be misunderstanding, though. I'm probably misunderstanding. Right, nevertheless, in most advanced countries, the following will be pretty generally applicable. Alright, we've got a list here. What is going to happen? Abolition of property in land.
Just breathe.
Abolition of property in land and application of all rents of land to public purposes. I want to go further. I am all for abolition of property in land. Right? I talked about this a few videos ago, right? How do you derive ownership of land? It's just because someone with a lot of power says so, right? And we're talking about potential, like threat of violence, right? Is what it takes to decide ownership of land. And I think that is dumb and we should not do it, right? So there's not even rent of land. I don't even know about that. But that's a long separate discussion, which I'm not in the mood to reiterate today. If anyone is interested, just ask. Yeah. 2. Heavy progressive or gradient income tax. I'm all for taxes. Taxes are great. Abolition of, as long as it's used properly, all right? Tax is a tool, and it's a great tool if it's used in a good way, right? Taxes can be good and bad. It's a tool to achieve some goals. And I can be for those goals or against those goals. And I can be for the implementation of the usage of tax money, and I can be against the usage of. But in general, I like tax, right? Right. Abolition of all rights of inheritance. Ooh. That's... People are not going to be happy about that. Well, I suppose what you do then, right? What happens then is that I just sell all my stuff to my children before I die, right? There we go. Right. Just make sure to sell that way before you die. Right. And don't die unexpectedly, right? If you have to die expectedly. Yeah, this is... Right? That's the whole... That's like one of our driving forces, right? Have children, protect the children, make sure that the children have a great life. Leave stuff for them, right? A lot of people would sacrifice themselves for their children, right? And then abolishing this idea, I don't think that will work. I just don't think it will work. It might, but I don't think so. Confiscation of the property of all immigrants and rebels. Oof. 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 Oh no, this is just some dystopian shit. Immigrants, I don't know about that. That's an interesting can of worm, but if you want to abolish, right? I don't know, maybe not. Rebels, though, that is unacceptable. What does rebel mean? It's the modern day equivalent of terrorist, right? It's super vague, right? I'll call you a rebel and then I take all your stuff. That is actually happening today. I've heard about that in America. What is it? Civil forfeiture? It's not even rebels, right? It's just a state going in and just taking whatever the fuck they want. And that's a recipe for dystopian stuff. So that's unacceptable. Right, centralization of credit in the hands of the state by means of a national bank with state capital and exclusive monopoly. This is what we have today, and that's right. Modern day, right? We have this. Right? And we look at the consequence, and it's just so much problems. It's so much problems with it. And it's such a route to corruption, right? It's such a route to corruption. And centralized and like... So, right, they can screw it up. It's a single point of failure. Yeah, I would want to see crypto in the future. Decentralized money, right? Not to have some big fucking organization of bourgeoisie to control all the money, right? This is what they're arguing for, right? They're just replacing the bourgeoisie, one ruling class with another ruling class, right? They are imagining that the proletariat is the ruling class, but that is not the case. Right? It's not the proletariat that will sit in these banks, right? There are organizers sitting in these banks. And they are the new... Alright. Centralization of the means of communication and transport in the hands of the state. I've read 1984. Yeah, I've read 1984. This is again centralization, right? It's a single point of failure, which is fucking dangerous because the means of like this can leads to like transportation that can lead to starvation very easily, right? It's dangerous because stuff breaks all the time and this stuff is difficult. And the means of communication, right? Oh, right. Free speech, let's get fucking rid of that. Especially, right? You're not allowed to criticize the state. Yeah. That's not allowed. So this is another very... Oh, wow. Wow. I'm actually surprised today how bad it actually, like, some of these points in the manifesto, how dystopian they actually are. Oof. Extension of factories and instruments of production owned by the state. Well, I am assuming that this is not modern communism, right? Modern communists must have thrown a lot of these ideas out. They must have. Right? Because all ideas, right? They are built on older ideas. Alright. Extension of factories and instruments of production owned by the state. The bringing into cultivation of wastelands. And the improvement of the soil generally in accordance with a common plan. Well, that looks like a bot. 5 viewers. No. That looks definitely like a bot. Endo for one. Oh, so I'm just gonna... where's this ban button? Ban. Alright. Boom, yeah. Definitely ban. That was a new type of bot. I haven't seen that before. Yeah, this is again like a... Centralizing this is... Alright, soil, right? You need to rotate it. And having control on every single piece of land within a country from a centralized point, right? That's a lot of bureaucracy. And that's just making it more complicated than it has to be, right? Instead, you can just have the rule for the people that works on the farm that you have to rotate, you have to take care of the soil. And that's the rules, right? But you don't have to organize it from a centralized point of view, right? And that just leads to a problem. You can make a rule and tell them to follow the rule, and you can have inspections from time to time, right? Check the quality of the soil, and just if the soil is overly used, I mean, there has to be... I'm not an agricultural expert, right? I don't know anything about this. But I assume you can test the soil for quality, right? And if they find below a certain level, then you get like a fine or something like that. That would be a way less bureaucratic way to... and more hands-off way to implement this type of regulation, right? I'm for the regulation, I'm just against how they think the regulations should be made. Right, equal liability of all works. What does that mean? Establishment of industrial armies, especially for agriculture. Wait. What the fuck does that mean? Industrial armies for agriculture? I don't understand that bit. Alright. Combination of agriculture with manufacturing industries. Gradual abolition of all the distinction between town and country by more equable distribution of the populace over the country. Yeah, I don't think this is a social thing to do. I think this is what we want as a humanity. It kind of looks that way, right? It doesn't have to be a communist, right? We've seen the Amazon, the flying things, the bots, the drones, right? The drone that distributes centers and whatnot, having that type of distribution. I think that is something that humanity just in general wants. To have great distribution of stuff in general. But as it stands right now, this is not a really good goal, right? Right now, eat local. Yeah, that is, right? The less coal we burn, the better. That's, and if you're looking at urgent political stuff right now, let's not focus on this, because that would burn a lot of coal that we don't want to burn. That I don't want us to burn. Sorry. It's not... I don't want to put words in your mouth. My apologies. I don't want us to burn a lot of coal, so I'm against this for now, yeah. Free education for all children in public schools. Yep. And have the parents join, right? The parents should help and be part of the public schools. Abolition of children's factory labor in its present form. Yeah, that's a worthwhile goal. Combination of education with industrial production, etc., etc. That is... yeah, schooling is a little bit removed from society. And I mean, it's... you can go either way, right? I'm happy with either way, right? We can have schools... what is those called again, right? If you go back, there was a lot of... you learned a trade, right? By doing the actual trade and having a master. Yeah, master and apprentice, right? We had a lot of apprenticeship. And I think apprenticeship is valuable. Yeah, apprenticeship, that's... learn by actually doing and being a part of the production. I think that is... some things can be done like that. Like, every job you ever start, right? You have to learn the job on the job. And I think, yeah, apprenticeship... not like a replacement for school or whatnot, but it's more apprenticeship. Like, you can have a shorter education and longer apprenticeship, depending on, like, specifics, right? Specific situations, right? Like working with cars, repairing car repairship, right? For example, you can probably shorten that education with a year and just have more apprenticeship as a job, right? So you help and start to get paid even though you're still learning. So it's not even free education. You should get paid to get educated. Yeah, that would make a lot of sense, right? Get paid to get educated and get paid for their apprenticeship as well. Again, one way to implement that would be great, right? If you get paid to do education, well, if we have universal basic income, you are getting paid to get educated. Right? That's one way to implement that. Great stuff. Oh man, I really need to find some... Alright, where did... oh, I think I must have removed... closed that thing. Alright, I need to open that again. That's the next thing I want to read, definitely. I want to find something that, like, really criticizes universal basic income. And we can learn how to spell, yeah. Top 3 arguments, yeah. Like, we can... I don't know how to do that, but I do want to read those things because yeah. I'm stuck. When in the course of development, class distinctions have disappeared and all production has been concentrated in the hands of the vast association of the whole nation, the public power will lose its political character. What? Political power, properly so called, is merely the organized power of one's class for oppressing another. That is the dumbest. No, I heard dumber shit just a few minutes ago. Like, probably like almost an hour ago I heard some dumber shit, but this is some dumb shit. If the proletariat during its... Alright, do I even have to say it? Right, political power... Right, and you just... Like, when we have communism, we just won't have politics anymore. That's just the case, right? Ethics... Right, I know they reject philosophy, but the whole point of ethics is to say what not to do against other people. Right. Actually, something that I'm curious about. Alright. Murder... motives. I've heard that there are like 7 motives. Five? Right. This is just an example, right? Motives for murder. Financial gain. Alright, that's a political one. Extreme poverty. Alright, so those are the political ones that they are talking about, right? Drugs and alcohol. Yeah, you can have like a psychosis. And you might not be able to control yourself. That's not really murder, though. That's killing. But still, right? We need political rules for this kind of stuff. That communism won't solve that. Personal satisfaction. Alright. Communism won't solve that. Alright, political murders. Communism won't fucking solve that, because people will fucking disagree still. Right? If everybody agreed that communism was the greatest, then we would live in a communist society, right? Purely communist, because everybody thought that this was the best way to do it. Obviously, that is not how the world works. We have different types of opinions. So, therefore, here we go. Revenge. Communism won't solve that. Personal vendettas. Communism won't solve that. Self-defense, right? Just people attacking each other. Violence in general. Communism won't abolish violence. Class conflict. Well, according to communism, it will solve that, even though I'm hesitant. Religious differences. Alright. Right. Communists say that religion is not allowed. Problem solved. Right, mental problems, yeah. Emotional murders, yeah. Alright, so therefore, right, just as an example. Political power is needed, and it's not used for one class to oppress another, right? It's about organizing humans into a society where we feel safe and happy, or content at least, right? Oh, if the proletariat during its contest with the bourgeoisie is compelled by the force of circumstances to organize itself as a class, if by means of a revolution it makes itself the ruling class and as such sweeps away by force the old conditions of production, then it will, along with these conditions, have swept away the conditions for the existence of class antagonisms and of classes generally. Yeah. If you make yourself the ruling class, then there is no more need for classes, because, well, my class is ruling, so all the other classes don't matter anymore. And will thereby have abolished its own supremacy as a class. Right. Antagonisms are created by this text, and the antagonisms don't go away, right? Like, one of my criticisms that I've had over and over again, right, is that it's difficult to organizing people, and you have to organize people. Right? If you flip it on its head and the organizer does not have any authority over the organized, then I don't think organizing will work. I just don't think it will. It might. It might. Sounds like anarchy. Not anarchism. It sounds like anarchy, where every individual just decides for themselves what they want to do. And that will definitely lead to the best type of society. No one will be oppressed, no violence, no nothing. If everyone just do whatever the fuck they want. It's kind of what would be needed As far as I understand this, anyway. I'm probably misunderstanding something, but there we are. In place of the old bourgeois society with its classes and class antagonisms, we shall have an association in which the free development of each is the condition for the free development of all. We will have an association, eh? Free development of each is the condition for the free development of all. Yeah, right? Free development of each. That kind of implies that every person do whatever the fuck they want, right? And that is the only way to do free development of all? Kinda disagree, right? There will be conflicts. And if there will be conflicts, there need to be a way to solve these conflicts. And do we do that just by magic? Or do we have like a set of rules to solve these conflicts? And how do we come up with these set of rules? Right, through politics. That's the way how it's done. All right. And that whole chapter was dumb, right? It was still like they claimed it was gonna be about the proletarian and the communist, but it was still just about the bourgeois. That was that whole chapter. It was just about the bourgeois again. All right, number 3, socialist and communist literature. And they have a number 14 already, so is this it? No. It's in the very end of this thing. 14. Well, that's... here we go, 14. Note that, as Marx says in the 1872 preface, that the autonomy of socialist currents presented here is obsolete, but the principles remain unchanged. Here we go. But this, I'm gonna take today again, a little bit early lunch, because it's a new section, and let's start a new section tomorrow. Also, I need to calm down, take a few breaths, and, well, I think I'm gonna be frustrated just in general, like pissy the rest of the day because of how dumb that last bit was. Oh man. Maybe I misunderstood the whole thing. Very possible, but my understanding, from my interpretation, it was dumb. I don't even know how to... They triggered me. That is what happened. Yeah, I got triggered. So hopefully I'll not be triggered tomorrow and be able to be more charitable in my reading tomorrow than I have been today. It's difficult to be uncharitable when... Alright, thanks for hanging out today. Have a good one and see you next time. Cheers.